Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Facebook Live. Hi, Sybil. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Anne.
I'm very excited to welcome Sybil to this Facebook Live. She is going to be one of our lecturers at the Vet Rehab Summit, and she's also going to be lecturing for us on the, on the online Pet Health Equine members portal in the future, and specifically speaking about kinesio tape. So thank you so much for joining us, Sybil. Please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about who you are.
Okay, first, thanks for having me. I'm really excited of all the projects that we are bringing in together, the summit, the webinars, all of that. So just a brief introduction. I'm a vet. I'm based in Italy. And I'm working, I would say, 95% of my job is equine rehab, and the other 5% is making webinars. So I'm joking. I'm working on sports medicine. And so I graduated at the vet school in 2004, quite a while now. And then I got certified in equine rehabilitation therapies at Animal Rehab Institute in Florida in 2010. And last year, I finally made it to become a diplomate of the American College of Veterinary Sports Medicine and Rehabilitation. And as you said, taping is I would say a little bit my big thing, but also something I'm trying to bring some research on because I think there's not much. And most of what is out is not very well designed. But that has been the issue on the human side for years. So we'll talk about it.
Awesome. Okay, so kinesio taping, as you've said, is a really important modality to you. Why is it important to you? What do you love about it? Why taping? Why is that your thing?
I think it's my thing because I feel it like kind of an extension of my hands. I mean, I've been working very closely in 2011, 2012 with Dr. Kenzo Kaze. That is the Japanese chiropractor that developed kinesio taping for humans. And we've been working close together and also with Gudrun Collins, that is a PT in the UK, to develop the equine education program for kinesio. And having to put together all of this knowledge, all of these informations for students made me use it so much that it ended up really being like I cannot use my hands if I don't have a kinesio in it or something like that. I mean, I really found it as the most useful thing to make my treatments last longer, get better. I mean, it's just, I think that any one of us has something that we prefer as an add-on to our treatments. For me, it's taping, and I just found it marvelous because you can use it for everything. Whatever happens, you can use it. Also to fix things.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I have to say I do love taping, but it's not, it's not something that I'm using all the time. So it's definitely, but yes, it's one of my favorites. I got to have a big roll in my box and I've got to have it ready. So I love it as well. So you've spoken a little bit about kind of what we know about taping from a research perspective. I'd love to talk a little bit about that because, as you say, there isn't much. So what do we know? And from there, kind of what are the pitfalls of the research? So I love the conversation we had before about it, where you pointed out some things to me that I wouldn't even have realized reading those research papers that were drawbacks or limitations of them. So I'd love for you to just point some of that stuff out. And before you start, Sybil, I just want to ask our viewers, guys, please, if you have questions about taping, pop them in the comments. And I also want to know, what are your biggest challenges using this modality so that we can address them. So, okay, go for it, Sybil.
Okay, so from a research perspective, we know a lot now from the human side, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
bit what happened for any type of modality that was used into veterinary medicine. We took what was known in humans, and then we kind of translated it, transposed it
Mm.
into the vet side. So from a taping perspective, we know a lot from humans. Many things that have been done in the humans won't be it won't be possible to do them in
Mm.
animals. I'm thinking about research that have been done using functional MRI to see the activation in the brain while you were taping people.
Mm.
Probably it's something that we could do on small animals, um, but obviously not in equines. I mean, we would need too big MRI to do that.
Mm.
But in humans, they did some of these kind of research with functional MRI, and it was amazing the results that they got, because they
Oh,
could clearly see the activation of some areas of the brain that were totally silent. I'm thinking about people with Parkinson, for example. They were taping some areas, and it was coming back.
wow.
So that was amazing. And there is a lot of research on the human side. The problem has been for years, and it's still a problem, that for many years they had been trying to do some research on the use of taping on healthy people. And
Okay.
obviously they were demonstrating it was not working, which
Mm.
is, thank God, what is happening. Because what if we were able to prove that it's working on normal things? It means that it can unbalance or alter something that is already working optimally. It
Mm.
needs to work only on things that have a problem.
So
So
basically, what you're saying with that, let me just get my brain around this. If I'm going to stick it on my arm, but there's nothing wrong with my arm, the effect will be zero. But if there is
exactly,
something wrong with my arm and I stick it on correctly, there will be a beneficial effect. And so it's helping to bring the body back into balance without unbalancing it. So basically, we can't
exactly.
do it wrong. Yeah.
Not really, because
Okay.
actually, when there's a problem and you use the wrong application, then you might do it. You
Okay.
might have things worsen.
Yes.
So it's not that you cannot do anything wrong; it's that you cannot unbalance what is within its
Balance.
balance.
I
So the
like.
idea is that taping is designed, as for many other modalities, to use the healing potential of the organism to bring back the state of homeostasis, right?
Mm.
So it's kind of using the body itself to heal itself.
Mm.
It's just giving a direction. It's like you are driving in the middle of the savannah, and you get
Mhm.
lost, and you find somebody that tells you where to go back into civilization.
That's a good analogy. I'm enjoying my analogies at the moment, guys. Okay, so back to the research, Sybil. What else do we know about Katie?
So we actually know that it's acting on pain, that it's acting on muscle strength, that it's acting a lot on fascia. So fascia is the biggest topic at the moment
Mm,
on in humans and in animals, and we know that almost everything is relating to fascia.
mm.
That's the latest big big news that we had, is everything is related to fascia.
To the fascia,
And
yeah.
yeah, and so because taping is really effective in treating fascia, we can say that everything can be treated with taping, and it's not so untruth.
I like the reasoning there. I have to say, yes, the fascial developments have been very interesting, and I'm loving Michelle Broadhurst's book on it. So I'm busy reading the canine one, but there is also an equine one. So if you guys want to read that, please do. It's
Yeah,
fantastic. That'll be
that's
my
on my
next
reading
read.
list.
Yes, the equine one will be my next read. And I don't think she speaks about taping in it, but I'm not sure yet. I haven't gotten there. So, okay, so taping. directly relate, is treating the fascia, which is related to everything. What else do we know, Sybil, from the research?
Well, actually, we do know a lot of the efficacy in humans for treatment of specific conditions.
Conditions. Mm.
Yeah, and actually, the real mechanism of action is not totally explained, but this is something that happens for acupuncture or for many other things too.
Yeah.
Um, so the full mechanism of action is not totally explained and probably will never be, as it is for acupuncture. It's been used
Mm-hmm.
since 5,000 years and nobody cares how it works. We just know that it works. Regarding the vet side, there are very few articles published. So there's a work, sorry, Max Basta. My dog is trying to take part of the conversation. Excuse me. I apologize. I have been publishing a work now 8 years ago. I mean, it was presented at the IAVRPT conference, and it was on the use on sacroiliac dysfunction. And that was probably one of the first, if not the first, vet taping presented work. It was not published actually because they did not publish the presentations into journal.
Okay.
And I didn't quite really had the time at that moment to follow up and make it published. But everything is still in my computer. I can decide to work on it maybe. And then
I think you should. I was just going to say, I'm not familiar with that publication, so now I know why, and I think you should share it with us.
Yeah, I should. And then I'm working on a certain number of publications at the moment. Try to make some good basics for the science behind the taping. There have been a couple of articles published. One was from Dr. Lima Matos in Brazil. He published an interesting research on the efficacy of taping after stifle arthroscopy. So it was mainly related to the swelling, and they had good results. Then there's another paper that has been published in Vienna by Antonia Zellner. She was one of my students, and she took the taping course in order to work with taping for her graduation thesis. The problem is, I mean, the idea is good behind that study, but the problem is that they used the tape on healthy animals. So it ended up showing nothing. I mean, no action, but because it was healthy subjects. And there's another work on thoracolumbar flexion that has been published by Kasia Eriksson recently. And still they didn't find great effect or efficacy, but still they were using healthy subjects. So I think it's good to see that there's a potential, but to prove the efficacy, we need to know that we need to use pathological conditions, because on subjects, most of the time, it's going to have no or very reduced effect. To me, publishing this type of results, I mean, it's right because it demonstrates that it's not changing anything if the subjects are healthy. But on the other side, it must not be confused with saying taping is doing nothing, because that's not the truth.
Yes. So as you were talking about those papers now, I remember about a webinar we had with Sherry Johnson. So it's in the Equine members portal, and she did kind of go into all these research papers on taping. Can you hear me clearly?
I do.
Okay, good. Okay. So she did go into these research papers, and I do suggest if you guys want to go watch that webinar, it's in the members portal, do that. And I remember the one with the lumbar flexion. One of the things that stood out for me from what she said was that there was individual variation. So for some of them flexion increased, for some of them extension increased. So there were differences in what was happening, which led to the kind of net no effect. But if there are differences in what's happening, then it kind of supports what you said about bringing the body into balance, right? Because we'll all have slightly different imbalances. And if that was the kind of overall trend, that different things were happening for individual horses, then I think that's super valuable for us to think about, just to kind of keep in our minds.
That type of results that you might get can pinpoint a problem. I mean, sometimes I'm
Yeah.
using taping as a diagnostic tool.
Mm.
Like I have horses, and obviously I don't have the video, so you have to trust me. But I've had horses that were lame. One was left hind, the other one was right hind, one other one was in the front limb. And after the taping, the lameness disappeared and never
Yes.
came back. So that's the problem. It never came back. So I couldn't
Wow.
video it
Okay.
to show it was working. And to me, it was in all these cases, it was always related to an impairment in the neuromotor control of some muscles. So that happens a lot with quadriceps, for example, when you have stifle injuries on the front limb. It was related to a potential shoulder injury that the horse had, and that ended up being solved with the facilitation of the supraspinatus. So,
So I
you
have
think
the
the
same.
muscles you're using?
Yeah, I had the same thing happen to me, Sybil. Like I say, it's not taping is not my first thing, but I had a really challenging high level dressage horse that was just constantly off on the left hind. He wasn't lame, but he had continuous back pain. He wasn't getting better. I couldn't figure it out. I taped his hock, and so we did proper full assessment. I taped his hock, and he was 100% better. And then I was like, go take x-rays of that hock. Let's see what's going on. And
And
they
what
came
did
back
you
with
find out on
arthritis.
the X-rays?
It came back with arthritis in his hock. And it was
Great.
like one of those mind-blowing moments for me, because I wouldn't have localized it if I hadn't taped it. I would have just been like, x-ray everything, because that's what else do you do, right? So yeah, it was and beautiful, because I said to the owner, I really think we should x-ray it. And he did. So that was amazing. It's nice to have
Yeah.
owners like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. But sometimes it's also the way that you can, I mean, you're not sure whether it's a muscle
Mm,
group or another one. You just tape it and you find out which one it is.
mm,
So this
mm.
is where it's really useful, especially on functional problems. I mean,
Yeah.
when you have things that do not really work 100%, and you say, okay, how can I get to that 100% or
Mm,
even 110%, because that's what we're asking to our equine athletes,
mm.
actually, is to be
Yes.
above 100%.
Yeah. So we mentioned briefly earlier that you can do it wrong, right? And actually, I mean, we all know that, because we've all taped something, walked it out, and been like, oh my gosh, that's much worse. So I had a conversation with a colleague of mine not long ago about taping, where she was really trying to get um, some guidelines on how to use it for specific conditions, so that she wouldn't end up with that kind of, it looks much worse. And we don't have much, right, for us, in terms of these are the kind of protocols we should use. I have a human textbook that I refer back to for different patterns that I just try. And there isn't an equine textbook out, but I don't have it, so I can't refer to it. So Sybil, can you chat to me a little bit about that kind of process? We don't have protocols that we can use. How do we decide what is going to be the right application for a specific thing? And so for me, I just say, okay, this is what I think, let's try it. I go through my reasoning, I try it, I walk it out. If it's worse, I take it off and I try again. But it's not a great kind of impression that you're leaving with the owner, right? That you don't really know what you're doing. So is there a way for us to do that better? Is there like a better way for us to make that decision?
I think that first of all, it's mostly based on the type of training that you got. I mean,
Okay.
uh, since the beginning, when I started teaching taping in 2012, my goal has always been not to give the cooking recipe. I mean, you have this
Mm,
condition, you use this taping solution,
mhm, mhm,
because that doesn't work. I mean, it might work in a majority of cases,
mhm.
but you need to get to the right application through the clinical reasoning.
Okay.
Because if you have the cookbook, right, anyone can use the cookbook.
Mm,
Anyone can stick a piece of tape
mm.
just looking at an image. But what you need to get into yourself, because the tape has to become the extension of your hand, and
Mm,
this has always been my goal when I was teaching it, is you need to understand what first, what is the problem. So your functional assessment skill have to be good.
mm.
And then you need to kind of think, okay, what would I do manually, for example?
Okay.
Okay. And this already gives you an indication of what you would do. For example,
Yes.
if you have a muscle contracture and you think, okay, manually, how would I try to release this contracture? And then you try it manually, then you already have the direction of the tape and how to apply it.
Okay.
And then you think, okay, how much tension should I use remaining within the guideline ranges, right? And if you think, okay, this contracture would need a very soft release, and then you're going to stick to the lowest range of tension that you are
Mm,
supposed to use for the muscle application. And if you think, no, this contracture would really need that I get in deep into it, and then you add tension to your tape. So it's
mm.
not really, I think, about having somewhere to read what type of application you can use for that type of condition. I really
Okay.
think it's a matter of understanding how it works, why it works, and how you really integrate it into your daily work. Because
Mm,
that's the point. I mean, taping is not a self alone, a self
mm.
self-standing therapy.
Standalone.
Yeah, sorry, I was trying to mix the right amount of words. A standalone therapy, but it's mostly something that you are going to add. The idea with which Dr. Kenzokase developed the tape was, I want something to keep my hand on the patients in between visits.
Yeah.
So that's how he developed the tape originally, because
Mm,
he's a chiropractor. He was manipulating people, sending them home with exercises, coming back the week after, and nothing has changed
Strange.
because they
Okay.
didn't do the exercises, because treatment didn't last long enough, right?
Yes.
I know people do not do the exercises because I'm the one that doesn't do
Me too.
it.
It's so good to speak to someone who's like me.
And
I'm
so
like
he
owner
found,
compliance 10%.
yeah, exactly. And so he said, okay, I have to find a way to keep my treatment last.
Mm,
And athletic taping that was available at that moment was not the right. I mean, that's where he started thinking from. But then he
mm,
said, the problem with athletic taping is that it gives some kind of proprioceptive feedback. It might keep the things in the right position, but then it does not allow range of motion.
movement. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
since you have no movement, you have no rehab at the end of the story.
Mm,
And
mm,
so that's how he designed a tape that was flexible and that was basing his action on proprioception and muscle function.
mm. I love
So
it. So,
that's the big thing with which we need to use the tape.
okay.
It's
So
not
really an
something that is going to
extension of
fix the
your
problems.
hand. Mm. I really love that because our hands are our greatest tool, right? And we're always saying that to ourselves and to each other. Our hands are our greatest tool. So if we can use something to extend that, and I like that thinking process where you're reasoning how to apply the tape according to what you want to achieve manually. What would you do with your hand, and then how would you extend that? I think that gives a really good kind of starting point. So where can we train to do this properly? What are the different training options that we have?
There are different training options. So Kinesio is still using the program that I had designed in 2012 and then reviewed until 2016 when I left. And they have instructors, probably maybe now they have some more, but those that I know, I've been training them myself. So I know that they are probably kind of trying to spread the word that I gave them. Otherwise, I know that Vetkin tape and rock tape also have some programs. And then if people prefer to follow my instructions, Animal Rehab Institute is offering a certification program in equine taping that is taught by myself.
Okay.
So I'm leaving it for the last option because it's not nice for the others to be the first one.
Okay,
But if you want to learn with the best, this is where you have to go.
Okay, sounds good. It sounds good to me. So I want to talk about some of the kind of challenges that we face using kinesio tape. And this is, you know, what I've experienced, what other people have experienced and spoken to me about. But firstly would be adhesion. How do we get that tape to adhere to the fur, to the skin, to the animal?
To the animal. So first of all, there are different situations that are at the base of the non-adhesion process. Your worst enemy at the show is the show sheen.
Oh.
If you have horses that have been cleaned with the show sheen, or have the show sheen in the tail and they're swishing the tail and putting show sheen everywhere, I can tell you show sheen is your worst enemy. Okay. And this is something that I discovered years ago. I was treating the Italian show jumping team in I don't remember even where, and I was taping the horses back, and so I was getting from one stall to the other, and once I get to the third horse, the first one had already lost his tape. I said, no, that's not possible. You're kidding me. So I went back, restick my tape, but it was weird because it was really coming off like when you have dust that sticks onto the glue, right?
Yeah.
And it ended up, I arrived at the 6th or 7th horse, and then the groom was preparing the last one, and he was kind of spraying the whole horse with show sheen. And I said, okay. So for this show, I think I have to find another solution because tape is not going to work. Yes. So first of all, you have to make sure that the horse has not been cleaned with any type of fly sprays, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the horse has to be clean, but not oily. I mean, greasy, slippery,
shiny.
Say that you like.
Shiny. Right?
I mean, sometimes it sticks much better on horses that have been in the mud until the hour before and have just been cleaned with a brush, because if there's not too much of the sandy component of the mud, it sticks pretty good. I've had horses that were usually living in the paddock, show sheen, any type of things that where you have hairs that are particularly either oily or with too much sand or stuff like that, right? So it has to be clean. It has to be clean. It has to be dry. Okay. So if you are washing the horse prior to a taping session, make sure that the horse will have the time to dry, because sometimes you still have some water that is in between the hairs, even if it has to be perfectly dry. Okay. For some type of applications, you might need to clip the horse. So there are some type of applications that will need clipping, but most of the time, these are applications that are needed when the horses are not in a competition frame. Like if you are taping for a muscle thing with which the horse will need to work with, then you don't need to clip.
Okay.
Some other conditions that might need the clipping, like tendon applications. Most of the time, the horse has a bowed tendon, so you can clip the horse. It's not a problem. The hair will grow together with his healing of the tendon. Another thing, most of the time that happens is that you either have improper tensions in your tape, so the tension is too high, or you have anchoring sides that are not long enough. So if I think about taping a biceps femoris, right? The biceps it's going to take probably 80 centimeters of tape to tape it all. You need to have at least, I would say, 35 centimeters of anchors at the beginning and at the end, because you have a lot of movement. The muscle is very big, and you need to kind of, well, I think it's mostly, when it happens in that conditions, it's mostly related to the fact that anchors are too short and tension is too high.
Okay, so
And
is your
two things,
the amount of anchorage that you use, that's related to the amount of tension that you're putting on, as well as the length of the active section of the tape
as well. So if we are thinking about tensions that are higher than 50% of tension in the tape, then there's a rule for which the anchors have to be 2/3 of the length of the tape you're using. Okay. When you are below those tension ranges, so below 50%, then you do not really have a rule. I mean, if you're taping a back where you do not have a lot of movement, you can have very small anchoring points and then a long piece of tape. But if you are anchoring on a place that has a lot of movement, then you need longer anchors.
Okay.
So sometimes what I'm saying to my students is you need at least 20 rolls of tape to understand how long your anchors are to be. So it depends how many rolls you have already used.
Okay, that's good. So it comes a little bit also from experience, but probably a good idea would be is use a longer anchor.
But it must not be too long on the other hand, right? Because if the anchor is too long, then you have no space to put it sometimes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You cannot wrap the whole horse with the tape. I mean, I know that there are some nice pictures going around with horses wrapped up with tape, but that's not the point.
No, that's not ideal.
It's just very nice.
That makes me think of a concern that we've had with taping tendons. Because you've got a higher tension along the tendon, you put an anchor all the way around the leg, and kind of our concern with that is, well, is that not a safety issue? Because if that gets caught, it can't pull off. So wrong or right, I don't know. That's just something that I always keep in the back of my mind if I'm putting a piece of tape all the way around as an anchor.
It has not to go all the way around. Because remember that tape was developed from a person that comes from the Chinese medicine, right? So if you wrap something all around, you stop the energy flow.
Okay.
So when you are using a piece of tape to anchor down your application, you must never close it all the way around.
Okay.
Because I mean, it's something that might sound stupid to some people, but I think the energetic part of our work is very important. And if you wrap something around like this, then you are stopping the energy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the energetic part of our work is something that we like to be scientific, and I know, I do it all the time. I'm like, this way, yeah. So yes, the energy. I think we should not ignore the energetic aspect of our work, even if we don't understand it. Just it's real, at least, Exactly.
You cannot understand it, you cannot trust it, but it's there.
It's there. You either work with it, or you lose it, or you completely negate what you're doing. I don't know. So, okay. So I have to say, in terms of application, alcohol is my best friend.
Yeah, it
make
is.
sure that I clean the area with alcohol properly, and then I don't have any issues. You know, we have an adhesive spray here that many people use, and I don't really like it. And I find I don't need it. If I clean it properly with alcohol, then I don't have an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. Alcohol is much better. Sometimes it's better to wash the horses with alcohol than with water,
Because it
except
dries
for
much more quickly.
it dries quicker. And I mean, sometimes there are some type of applications that you need to clip, but these
Yeah.
are most of the time very advanced sort of
Yeah.
things. Uh, and the horses are usually resting when you're using that type of application. So
Yes. Okay. So what is your favorite application? Like your favorite condition slash application that you love to use that just
I
gets you excited?
do not really have a favorite one, I can
Okay.
tell you. But probably, I mean, if I have to pick one, it's going to be the thoracolumbar fascia,
Ah, okay. And why is that your favorite?
because all horses, even the healthier one, are stuck in the thoracolumbar fascia because of how they are built.
Mm,
And so it's always a benefit. And it's probably because it's one of the first ones that I've tried when I was just at the very beginning. And obviously, my Guinea pig was one of my horses that didn't really have any type of back issues. I mean, he's always been very strong in his back, but still, he had a benefit from having that application on. I mean, sometimes I'm using it even only for having the horses in long travels.
yes. Yes. So how do you apply that thoracolumbar
It's
application?
how can I explain it to you? I mean, it's. I should show you a picture. Let me see if I can find one very quickly.
Okay.
Very quickly. Okay. Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's very beneficial if we can help them in travel. I know one of my mentors does that often. Her horses travel for competition like across the country. They live in the middle of nowhere. So when they go to competitions, it's far, 6+ hours of traveling for those horses, up to 2 days of traveling. So she'll usually apply some tape to help them through that so that they must be ready to go when they get there, right?
Yeah, they're well. They can stay on pretty long. I don't see you because I'm watching my screen. I
That's
hope that.
fine. Yeah, I'm sure we can share
Yeah,
something.
I've seen that. There's a
There's
share
a
screen
share
button.
screen. Yes,
So
I like
we,
it. So we're gonna try the share screen button. I think that's
yeah,
gonna be very
we
cool.
just so it's loading the image I would wish to show you, but
Perfect.
obviously it takes. Okay,
So
we are
guys,
almost in.
if you have any questions, now is the time. I don't see anything in our comments there, and hopefully I'm not missing anything. But if you have questions, if you have challenges, share them with us so we can try and address them. You ready to share your screen?
Almost. It's opening the pictures.
Okay,
It's just
perfect.
my computer says it's lunchtime and he wants to have break.
Yeah, one of my
Here we go.
recent
Got it?
realizations with the Facebook Lives is that I need to give my computer a break beforehand. Okay. I don't see anything here.
Okay. It should be coming now. Okay, so I want to share this. Come on.
Do you have the little icons below our stream that show you how to arrange the screen so we can?
I think, can you see it actually or
I
not?
can't see it. No, it's not coming up in my. No, I don't see it. Did you say share screen?
Yeah, I did. Screen sharing was. I'm just trying again. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Now you should see it.
No,
And
I
this
don't
is
see
the
anything.
application.
Can you? Oh, wait. Add to stream. There we
It says
go.
that StreamYard is sharing.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see it.
Okay.
Can you guys see the picture? Yes. I think that looks good, Sybil. Okay, so that's your application. So are you putting that along the spine just without any tension?
Yeah, you're first putting this one along the spine here, right?
Yeah.
And then usually I apply it from caudal to cranial because the recoil is going to be on the other way. And the tension is what we call taper off. It's around 10%.
Okay.
And then what I do is I anchor here in the middle and then apply it right and left, and you have to finish with no tension at your ends.
Ah. Okay, so anchored in the middle. Nice.
Yeah, anchor in the middle, and then you add paper of tension to the sides and then you finish this last part is with no tension. And like this, it's kind of you're having sort of micro massage all the time on the thoracic. Okay.
Can I ask you a random question? Do you use this, or do you use any applications on dogs? Have you tried that kind of application on dogs?
Yes, on my own dog when he was old. And I can have the picture somewhere, but this is a little bit longer to find.
Yeah.
I've been using taping on dogs, and the only thing is, I mean, my biggest arguing point with Dr. Kaze has always been if we want to apply taping on dogs, you have to consider that they have loose connective tissue in between the skin and the underlying layers. And that was my biggest point of discussion, because he pretended that he could use the same applications. And I said, no, we have to change something. But I know that they have been working on that since. And I've been using taping on dogs, not as much as on horses, because I'm not seeing that many dogs. But wait, maybe I have a video. Let me see if it's already in my computer. Or not?
Yeah, because I think that the most kind of inconsistency that we see in our efficacy with it is in dogs. Like with horses, we can pretty consistently see similar sort of results from what we're doing, but with dogs, there's always, it's like sometimes it works and sometimes it makes it much worse, and you don't really know what you're going to get from me, who's not trained in using kinesio tape. So we have a question here. One of our listeners is asking for suggestions for taping a severe swollen stifle due to a fusion in a standard bred foal. I had a lot of problems, first of all, with sticking, so with the adhesion.
Okay, so since it's a foal and has a big effusion in the stifle, I would say, I would first ask, has the potential of an infection has been ruled out? Because most of the time, swollen joints in foals might be related to infection. And if you apply tape on infection, then you make a big mess. So that's the first thing. Then if there's some kind of infection, probably this is why it's not sticking, because when you have infection, we know that the skin changes its properties and becomes a little bit more greasy, oily, and it's not going to stick. Okay, no infection, I assume, or no ruled out.
Okay, so no infection.
Has proven out. Okay, so there's no infection. Okay, so if there have been any other type of topic, we did arthroscopy. Okay. We did arthroscopy. Okay, so if you did arthroscopy, probably you still have some kind of soap or crusty things that are still there. We found a capsule tear. great. Um, and what type of application are you trying to use? Because that's the other thing. I'm reading while it's coming.
Yes, me too. I've tried those those squiggly lines for stifle
Yeah.
effusion, but that didn't work for me. That didn't work for me.
Sometimes when it's very nice to see, it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, this looks amazing. You're gonna love this. And then I was like, yeah, no difference.
Because the fact of going, I mean, if you think about lymphatic channels, do they go like this or do they go straight?
Yeah.
So you have to go straight. Go straight.
Yeah.
It's less nice to see, but it's going
Easier.
to trying to do something compressive. Absolutely not. It's going to worsen the effusion. You
Okay. So
the
what must she
aim
do?
the aim of the tape on a swelling, it's not to compress it, it's to create more space for the fluid to flow. So ideally, I sometimes I get some questions that bring myself a question for the person that are asking. So it's, what kind of training did you get? Because sometimes most of the problems are solved by a proper training. Taping is something that, because we think it's not going to be harmful, because it's just a piece of tape, we think that it's going to work, even though we didn't learn how to use it. But you need to learn how to use it before, I mean, if you want to get some results and if you do not want to have problems. So absolutely, compression is out of the solution for a swelling. It has to be decompression.
Okay, so I mean, I understand where that thinking comes from, because so many of our other approaches are saying like compress the tissue, and if we're massaging and using manual therapy, then we're trying to like kind of compress and move that that swelling. So yeah, I mean, I understand that kind of thought process. That makes sense. And I love that taping is coming from the opposite side, saying, well, instead of making less space, let's make a little bit more space for fluid movement, and allow better fluid movement within that tissue. So so would you use those fingers traveling from the stifle up towards the lymphatic
It's the other way
node?
around.
So
So
that
so the
yeah.
fin, let me take you a picture so I show you.
So the anchor is at the lymphatic point, drainage point, and then the fingers come towards the joint or the swelling.
And most of the time you will probably need to add more pieces, but well, actually for a stifle, I think, so I only have a forearm to show you, but I'm going to share the screen again.
Sherry Johnson shares her application of treating something similar to this in an adult horse, but with effusion. So there was an example of her application in there where she used those fingers coming from the inside, from the outside, so coming from different directions, which yeah.
Okay, so when you are taping for a lymphatic problem, so this is one example. So imagine it on the stifle instead of on the forearm. But when you are taping for a lymphatic problem, you have to respect some rules that are related to the lymphatic system, where you cannot cross across some lines that are from the front to the back, from the right to the left, right? Because otherwise it's not going to work properly. So having many really nice, I mean, taping doesn't need to be nice, it has to be effective, right? And so that's the thing. So I hope everybody's have seen it. It doesn't need to be nice, it needs to be effective.
Yeah.
And to be effective, it has to follow a certain number of rules. So
Okay, I
only
like
to
it.
understand. Yeah,
So basically, we really need to come and do the training with you.
I think so. Yeah.
I think so. So
Oh,
I
you
think so.
you don't need to come. It's all online.
No way. Okay, maybe I'll
Yes,
add that. That'll be my next certification instead of what I had planned
it's
instead.
it's a 6 modules online, and
Yeah.
then it's a 2 days live lab. And if you
Mm.
are enough people in South Africa, it will be my pleasure to come over there instead of having you come to here.
Fantastic. So can you share, will you share that link with me to the course, and then I will put it into the stream a little bit later for you guys. And will you
Yeah.
just repeat the name of the course that you offer?
So it's certification in equine kinesiology taping with Animal Rehabilitation Institute. So you can
Animal
find it
Rehab
on
Institute.
their website.
Okay.
And the
And
website is animalrehabinstitute.com.
yeah. Okay, so we're gonna add those. I'll add those in for you guys a little bit later. And then I do want to say I'm very much looking forward to your lecture at the summit. Can you give us a little bit of an idea what we can expect from that?
I already gave you a lot of ideas.
Yay! Okay.
No, I'm just joking. What I will try to, so it has been a little bit of a challenge to find out how I was going to structure my presentation. And so it's a little bit like when I gave you the title, I was watching not a movie this time. I don't remember what I was doing. I think I was cleaning my horse's paddocks. And that's where I get the inspiration. And I found out that I was going to relate the use of taping to the steps of rehab. So now,
So really
if I tell you
integrating.
what the steps of rehab are,
Yes.
I already gave my presentation. And then I will include a couple of clinical cases just to show you that it's working. And it has to be a part of a multimodal approach to rehab, because that's the key point.
Okay, I really love that. So integrating it into our plans. If you guys want to know more about the summit, go onto our website and you'll see all the info you need there. We have an amazing lineup, guys. Amazing. So go check it out and come and join us on the 14th of November. All right. So, well, thank you so much. This has been a really fantastic chat, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it as well. And we'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.